Okay, hello everyone. It was an eventful week, but this is my weekly update. Liam's Leapings number 76 to be precise, for the 17th of February. It's actually kind of bright. Turn this way. For 2024. I'll go over real quick the books I finished and then the books I'm in the middle of still. Um, because I did go to a convention. Well, actually, it's a conference in this case. What's the difference? The con, right? And I got back today, actually. So I was there for a little bit Thursday, a little bit there Friday. It's still going on Saturday, but I had to come back for work. And I actually missed work the last couple days as well, but I have a reason for that. So I'll talk about that. Um, I'm thinking I might actually make a video for Wednesday since I haven't made one in a while, anyways, just about my experience at the conference as well. Because this is my first time going to any conference or any convention as a guest. So I'll just mention it briefly though, because again, like I said, maybe I should make one about a separate one. So, anyways, the books I read this week I finally finished The Barbed Coil by J.V. Jones. This is a fun, epic fantasy standalone, rather big. But I like the character of Tessa a lot. And Ravis, however you would say it, isn't bad either. Um, though earlier on in the novel, I preferred Tessa's point of view and kind of got annoyed when we got Ravis's son. But not a bad novel. It is portal fantasy, which is not super popular, I feel like, these days, unless you call it Izakaya, and then it's rather popular among certain groups. But no, it's not bad, and I enjoyed it. So, um, and I need to read more by Jones, but that was part of the reason I read this, is so I could have read something by Jones, but not commit to a series standalone. Plus, I found a nice cheap copy of it. So, I also finished Another Fine Myth by Robert Asprin. This is the first book in the Myth Adventures series. It's just comic fantasy. So it involves traveling through different dimensions. That's essentially the idea here. Follows an apprentice wizard, kind of like a, I don't know, mediocre sneak thief as well. It's interesting, told in first person. Came out in the late 70s, right before the first Thieves World came out, which was edited by Robert Asprin. I have like, I'm not sure if it's the whole series, but I have most of the books if it's not the whole series, because my buddy Jerry got them for me. So um, I'm fine. I'm glad that I finally read it though. And then another book I read, I can't remember what I was reading last week. I think I was reading Elf Shadow um, by Elaine Cunningham. I really enjoyed this. I've been kind of a Forgotten Realms mood. It's almost been a Forgotten Realms February for me. And I enjoy this one a lot. This book won in Songs and Swords, and while it works really well as a standalone, there are four other books in the series technically, and so I really want to get to the next one, and I might do that soon because Elf Song, I don't know anything about it besides the fact that it comes after Elf Shadow, and I like this one a lot. Perfect novel, no, does have elf assassins in it, which is cool, and it's just a really good Forgotten Realms novel. Honestly, I really like Cunningham's take on the Forgotten Realms, so I can recommend this maybe even for people looking for an intro to the Forgotten Realms. And I made another one of those a couple weeks ago. So, and then speaking of Forgotten Realms, the fourth book I finished this week was Death of the Dragon by Ed Greenwood and Troy Denning. These are both authors I've read a lot of. I'm a much bigger fan of Greenwood than I am of Denning. I've had Greenwood on the channel. And I enjoyed this conclusion to the Cormyr saga, not just the death of a dragon, death of someone else as well, which I won't spoil, but that's kind of the plot of the series, but whatever. So very fun. Not my favorite in the series. I'd still say that would be Cormyr, the first novel, but it is better than Beyond the High Road, which is book 2, in my opinion. So that's probably Ed Greenwood making it better, right? And maybe the weak parts of the novel are just Denning. I digress. But no, is a good epic conclusion. If you want to, I'm actually doing a campaign around Cormyr right now during the Goblin War. This gives you probably the most information on the Goblin War than Beyond the High Road for sure, and also more than Cormyr by far. So I'm not sure if there's a supplement that talks about the Goblin War. I feel like there's probably not, but there might be. So, but yeah, it's a fun one. A little longer than normal Forgotten Realms novels as well. And then the two books that I've really been into this week, I'm still reading the book 3 with my daughters, but I did start another Forgotten Realms novel, Masquerades. This is another Harper book, but it really is a sequel to the Finder Stone trilogy, which is one of my favorite Forgotten Realms trilogies. I really enjoyed it when I read it in 2020. That was before my channel was created, and so there's no video on it on this channel. But that starts with Azure Bonds, and then goes to the Wyvern Spur, and then it goes to um, Song of Sariels. Those are all written by Kate Novak and Jeff Grubb, husband-wife duo. And this is basically like a fourth book in that series. It is set a decade later, and it was written a decade later, and it's about Alias and her buddy Dragonbait in Westgate. And Olive Rustkettle does make an appearance as well. So it took me a little time to really get into this one, but I am really enjoying it now. It's been a couple days since I've read it because I've been gone, haven't had the time, but I am enjoying it. I really like Alias as a character. That novella I finished almost a year ago now. My main character is partially inspired by Alias, like consciously at least. So the only other book I've been reading, I don't have a physical copy of, is Enchantments by Orson Scott Card, which is funny because I haven't read anything by Card since I was 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there. And I really enjoyed him back when I did read him. I read Ender's Game and Speaker for the Dead. Really enjoyed those at the time. I don't know if I'd like them now or how much I would like them, but this is a buddy read with my wife and my sister-in-law. So sister-in-law chose the book. I wouldn't have chosen it myself, but it's a fantasy, historical fantasy, kind of portal fantasy type of thing going on. It's interesting. It's got some interesting stuff going on. Is it a favorite? No, but it is not terrible either. So it'll be interesting to see what we should be discussing it actually. So we'll see what comes of the discussion. And then I got a couple books. I got Monk's Hood by Ellis Peters, book 3 in the Codvale Chronicles. I recently read book 2, if you've been keeping up to date with these, and so now I have book 3, so I can read that whenever I want. I want to, so I'm glad I have this now. And then I also got the only book that I got, at LTUE was Troubadours and Space Princesses, edited by Joletta Clegg and Joe Monson. I like Joe. I know Joe. I try to buy these when I go, right? And this is their benefits anthology, basically. It comes out the first day of LTE. It's basically from people who attend LTE as well, all the stories. I don't know any of these authors, funnily enough, this year. I generally know someone. So there is a story actually in here by David Farland, and it's dedicated to David Farland. And of course, he passed away, I believe, in 2022. Yeah, I'll probably read some of these stories when, not sure. I will probably read that Farland story relatively soon, though. So it's got an interesting cover. The Hemmeline Publishing, I think it is. Maybe it's Hemmeline Press. Always have these interesting covers that are, I don't know, I like them normally. So yeah, Hemmeline Publications. Okay. So those are the books I got. So real quick though, just about the experience at LTV, because I'll make a separate video on this. It's kind of empty in some ways. There's a lot of authors I like to talk to. There's a lot of bigger authors in the Utah community, and a lot of them don't go, or at least a lot of them I didn't see this year. There maybe were some that I missed, right? Like I did see Chris Hesberg. I didn't talk to him, unfortunately. I had like no time there. But I like talking to Chris when I get the chance. And then DJ Butler was there, and Dan Wells was there. I didn't talk to him this year. I talked to him last year. Those are maybe the biggest names. I mean, maybe there's some other names I'm just like, they're big and I'm just not aware of them, like if they write Lit RPG or something. But like, for example, last year I spent a lot of time talking with Steve Diamond, for example, and he wasn't there this year. But then other big authors like Larry Correa, Brandon Sanderson, Brian Lee Durfee, even like David J. West or Tracy Hickman or Modisette, though I know he's older and he doesn't live super close to LTV, but it's in Utah still. Other people, probably, I'm forgetting right now, but I haven't seen them at LTE, right? And they're rather popular. So I don't know why that is, but I still like LTE for networking purposes. And I was able to be on my first panel ever for a con, and also give a presentation, my first presentation ever, and technically an academic presentation. Now, definitely an academic presentation by the presentation itself, but LTU is also technically an academic conference, though it hardly seems like one at times. So it definitely is focused more on publishing and writing stuff, and less of the academic side of things. But it does have some of it, obviously. So it's cool. Yeah, it's cool being a guest. I got a folder, that has like my badge in it, and I had my little thing I put on the table in front of me. So I was on one panel. It was not scheduled. My buddy Dave, right, DJ Butler, he was scheduled for a panel, and for some reason he was the only guy on the panel. So a panel of one is not a panel, but so he invited some other folk to come and join him. So and that was fun. That was enjoyable. I like the way Dave moderates panels and runs them. So it was a fun time. I'll make another video, maybe going into little different details, basically, about how that went. But let me know what your week was like. We'll see what next week's like. I guess. Happy to be home though.